Get to your Yamaha dealer now for the Ready for Reliability sales event. Purchase a new Yamaha 30 to 450 horsepower outboard and get up to 7 years of Yamaha coverage protection free. And earn up to $200 in dealer credit. Reliability and a great deal starts here.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's March 19th. These are your headlines. Holdover striped bass activity just keeps getting better every day. We've seen some really nice fish coming out of places region-wide. Also, open water opportunities are opening up all over the place. We're seeing some nice largemouth bass this week. We're seeing some nice stocky trout coming out of Connecticut and Massachusetts. And we have the Connecticut Fishing and Hunting Show over at Mohegan Sun this weekend. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The ultimate fishing authority in the Northeast, the Fisherman magazine.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. The first thing I want to talk about is the Connecticut Fishing and Hunting Show. That's over at Mohegan Sun. It's going to run Friday to Sunday. The hours are a little different this year, so listen up. Where it used to open at 1, it's going to open at 3 on Friday. So 3 to 8 p.m. on Friday. Then it's going to be 9 to 8 p.m. on Saturday and 9 to 5 on Sunday. And it's going to have all the stuff you've come to expect at the show. We've got the hog trough, we've got the casting area, we've got the kids zone, we've got that laser shot range, lots of charter captains, lots of tackle shops, lots of tackle manufacturers. Also, we will be there renewing subscriptions. One thing I want to tell you, though, is if you've been waiting for this show to renew your subscription to get your pliers, I would get there early because we are starting to get a little low on the pliers. So make sure you get there early so you get your pliers. And then the other thing I want to tell you guys is that it's cheaper if you get your tickets online. So $12 online, $15 at the door. It's worth it to save the $3, especially if you're coming with a crew. And we hope to see you guys there to renew your subscriptions. Next thing I want to talk about is that the ASMFC just passed the liberalization of the sea bass regulations. So we're going to see a 20% increase across the entire East Coast. And up here in New England, that actually equates to more like a 25 to 27% increase. So that's great news for all you bottom fishermen out there. As far as I've seen, nothing has been made official state by state, but there's some pretty strong indications of what we're going to see. And I'm going to put a chart up here on the screen so you can see for Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts what we're probably going to be expecting as far as sea bass regulations go in 2026. So check that out now. And the last thing I want to talk about is the giveaway, which is ongoing, but we've only got 1 week left. And while I do have some good photos, I'm still juggling right now. I don't know exactly, I don't have a clear winner in mind is what I'm trying to say. So if you have a good photo that you've been sitting on, you might as well send it in. We are giving away a Couch's Cedarworks Jetty Swimmer clone, one that I made. It's painted in a very Bill Couch color, this sort of Wonder Bread color. And all you have to do to win it is take a great fishing photo. You're going to send it in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text it to the number on the screen. And just give me all the pertinent details. Name of the angler, where the fish was caught, how big the fish was, what it was caught on, anything else that you think is relevant to telling the story of the catch. And one of the most important things is that and I get these other types of photos all the time, even though I say it every week, it has to be the angler holding his or her fish. It can't be laying on the ground next to your foot. That does not count. That's not gonna make it anywhere in the contest. So we're really looking for well-composed photos that show a nice background and an angler holding a freshly caught fish, still wet, still alive. Not one of those ones back at the house next to the gas grill either. We really want to capture that quintessential sort of New England scene. So whether it's an ice fishing shot, an open water shot, or you caught it down in Belize on your vacation, doesn't matter to me. It just has to be a well-composed shot. Send that in, and we'll see who wins.
There he is. There he is.
Jumping over into the reports now, looking up into the North Country, as we like to call it here on the report. Things are definitely transitioning. I've seen some pictures this week of New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire lakes that are half open. But I've also seen some videos from not that much further north, just a little north of Portland, of guys still driving their trucks on the ice. So, the weather is going to win. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of when. I do think that even in the southern half of the North Country here, we're in a time now where you really have to watch it. You got to watch the edges. You really don't want to be bringing anything like a truck out there, even though some guys are still doing it, because once things start to warm up, the ice can be inconsistent in thickness, and you don't want to go through the ice on your snowmobile or your truck for obvious reasons. It can be very dangerous. It can also be very costly because you're gonna have to pay to get that thing dragged out of there. On the fishing end of things are still plugging along up there. Saw some nice smallmouth bass, saw some nice pickerel, and saw an assortment of trout species coming out of these ice fishing spots. And then we saw a lot of other guys in the southern half, seeming like they're kind of over it. Guys getting excited about getting their kayaks rigged out or getting their gear together or cleaning out the boat or whatever. So I think everybody, or almost everybody, is pretty fired up for open water season, and that's on the way. That's coming in pretty quick. Crossing the border into Massachusetts, I talked to Rick over at Jerry's Bait and Tackle in Milford, and he said, the ice fishing he thinks is pretty much over in central Massachusetts. He had some guys try to go out on Friday last week, and they brought a 10-foot plank, and they couldn't even span that gap between the shoreline and the ice. And even into the middle of last week, guys were reporting really inconsistent, kind of uninspiring ice, or not unsafe, but just iffy, and a lot of slushy, crumbly surfaces out there. So, he was feeling pretty good about sticking the fork in it and calling it done. However, he did get some reports from guys that went way west, out to the New York border. They were still on 6, 7, 8 inches of ice out there. We have had a bunch of rain, and we've had some warmer temperatures since the weekend. So you can probably bet that's whittled away at those ice measurements a little bit more. So, pretty much everywhere, south of that middle line in the northern part of our region, you're going to be proceeding with caution, or you're going to be done for the season. But as you head down toward Plymouth, as you get down toward the Cape, we're seeing a lot of open water now, and a lot of guys are getting out and doing the open water thing. It's been a great week for largemouth bass. We've seen some really nice fish. I saw some 6-pound fish. I saw a lot of just solid size fish, 2, 3, 4-pound fish. Jerkbaits have been really popular. Guys have been crushing fish on jerkbaits. The Ned rig has also been smashing them, which is a really great finesse bait for early in the season. Another great one is the hair jig. That's another thing that you guys should definitely be keeping on you at all times. Pretty much the best region right now has been the Cape. I was talking to Garrett over at Sportsport, and he said that the bass bite at the end of last week and into the weekend was unbelievable. He said guys were getting, 12, 15, 18 fish in a trip. And this was, of course, sort of pushing right up against that crazy front that came through, which does tend to fire up these fish. But even since then, reports have been really good for bass, pickerel, and then a lot of trout. Now, there's been some question about whether the state has stocked in Massachusetts waters. Some guys say they have, some guys say they haven't. There is no indication on social media or the website so far that the state has actually conducted any stocking. So it's up to you. You can decide what you think for yourself, or go look for tire tracks, something like that. But in either case, whatever the case may be, the trout bite's been really good on the Cape, and those holdover fish tend to be harder fighters, and obviously tend to be a little bit bigger as well. So that's sort of a win-win situation. The only saltwater fishing that I've heard of in Massachusetts was some holdover fishing up in the Boston area. We saw Eric Harrison had a nice fish this week. He was kind of talking about how, even after he wrote for us that February striper story, it was pretty much impossible unless you wanted to chop a hole in the ice this year. So he was happy to get out there and sort of resume his quest to, get striped bass every single month of the year. And so that's been happening. And then there's been some pollock down in the tanker cut in the canal. So if you get your sabiki rigs, you can cash in on that. Other than that, no saltwater news to speak of. And now let's check in with our Massachusetts field correspondents.
Thanks, Dave. Dan checking in with this week's report. Just gearing down from the Rissa show, not last weekend, but the weekend before. It was probably the best show that we've been to. Had a lot of people come by the booth. A lot of people picked me out of the crowd. A lot of people came by, and they're excited for the upcoming fishing season, and we are too. This time of year, we start working on the boat, checking all the safety gear, make sure all the life jackets are up to date, survival gear is up to date, make sure the batteries on the EPIRB are good, check all your reels, change your line, check the guides on your rod, especially your rod tip. That's one that's overlooked a lot, and people can't figure out why they keep breaking fish off. There might be a small little crack inside the guide that is very hard to notice, and it's something you got to keep an eye out for. Anyways, if you're trying to get out on the open water, Walsh's Deep Sea Fishing in Lynn, they're still running trips. Besides that, we're just, gearing up for the season coming. That's what I got. Stay safe, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.
Crossing over into Rhode Island, I'm pretty much ready to declare Rhode Island done as far as ice fishing goes. I do think you're still going to find some nuisance ice in some of the northern, maybe the northwest corner of the state, but everywhere else, I think you're going to be finding at least open patches, if not completely open water. I checked a bunch of ponds along the coast. I did find some areas like sort of back cove areas that were sort of slushed over with just all that broken up ice that sort of, it's just floating there, kind of going with the waves, but still makes it impossible to fish. But most of the ponds, I'd say 80 to 90% of the rest of these ponds is wide open. And fishing has started off pretty hot. We've seen a lot of jerkbait action again in Massachusetts, just like Massachusetts is what I meant to say, in Rhode Island. And some solid fish, again, fish up into the 3 or 4 pound range. And I saw some guys were throwing some big swim baits like Jeff Sullivan and had some bigger fish that were crossing the 5 pound barrier. So, I've said it a million times in this report, Rhode Island has an underrated, underappreciated largemouth bass fishery. And it's starting off pretty hot this year. So I would definitely make it a point to get out there and cash in on that. Now, one thing you have to remember, and I try to remind you guys as often as I can, in March and into the beginning of April, any body of water that's stocked with trout is completely off limits. No fishing whatsoever, and you don't want to make that mistake because they will give you a ticket, and nobody wants to pay a ticket. So you have to stay away from those until April 11th at 6 a.m. When opening day hits, and then all the fresh waters in the state are open to fishing. So just keep your eye on that. Make sure you don't make that mistake. Make sure you don't cross any boundaries. The other thing that's been going on in Rhode Island is holdover striped bass fishing. Seems to be, sort of incrementally getting better. I have not heard of any really impressive fish, which is, maybe not that atypical. But, fish in the 20 to 30 inch class have been fairly common. These guys are working pretty hard for them, but those fish are out there. They're taking, little white paddle tails and stuff like that. Basically want to be able to get them down deep. These fish tend to be closer to the bottom right after the ice comes off like it has over the last maybe 10 days ago. So water's still pretty cold. But, as things warm up and as things get better and better, we're just going to see more and more of this holdover striped bass activity in these back ponds. And that's only going to get better and better. Now, the thing that I did check is I did go out and check for herring. And I have not seen any herring. I talked to a couple other guys who have been looking, and they haven't seen any either. So typically when we start to see those herring move in, the holdover striped bass fishery, cranks up 2, 3, 4 notches. So keep your eyes open for keep your eyes open in the runs for those herring, because that's going to make a big difference for you guys. Nobody has been out on any headboat runs or anything like that. So we're still waiting for, more of that more typical, actual saltwater news. And now let's check in with our Rhode Island field correspondents.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, guys, nice to be back. And I got to tell you, we have some open water, freshwater. Pretty much all our brackish water has been open right now. There's lots of opportunities right now. There's a good crappie bite going on in Echo Pond, and a little bit going on here in Swansea. Milford Pond, Upper Warren Reservoir. They got some yellow perch in the mix, some white perch in the mix. Most of the fish have been biting on night crawlers and little small gulp, either paddle shads in the 2-inch, or I'm using the gulp minnows in the watermelon color, which have been very effective with the crappie. There is some sunfish in the mix, and there are some bass in the mix. They're just starting to really get going. That water's warmed up just a little bit. The ice is out. I do find that the water's a little bit of stain, so I think a little bit of scent on your bait is actually going to go a long way, just because how stained the water is right now. There is a lot of current in there because of all the running water, from the past storm. There's still lots of rivers that have crested, the Patuxent River, the Taunton River, all over their sides, just because of all the water and rain that we've had. So, hey, there are good opportunities to get up inside of those little brush areas where you normally can't, where the water's come up some high. Those fish are getting in there and feeding. So, a lot of the night crawlers that were pretty much, if you go outside and you look in your driveway, at least mine, there's night crawlers all over them. So that stuff from like roads is washing into these ponds. That's what these fish are feeding on right now. And I did see it firsthand when I was up in the upper reaches of the Taunton River. So if you're going to fish here in the East Bay, we have a couple of ponds that are still closed because they're trout stock ponds. But get to Echo Lake, jump over into Massachusetts here at Upper Warren Reservoir, Milford Pond. The Upper Coles River is another good spot. Get out and fish. There's good opportunities going on. And that's what we got from the East Bay this week. And we'll catch you next week. Tight lines.
What's going on, guys? What's up, Dave? Checking in this week. Well, pre-spawn is on, and it is jerkbait season. I've been using a lot of different types of variations of jerkbaits in the last week. I've been going out on crappy days. I've been going out on nice days, windy days, calm days, mornings, nights. I've been kind of using, the weather and the time as parameters of what these fish like. I've been kind of dialing it in. I have it completely dialed in now. I've been kind of bringing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, doing a lot of tackle tinkering, and seeing what kind of presentations they like. But right now, the jerkbait is on. Still cold water, so you got to really figure out your cadence and really pay attention to your cadence. Be meticulous when it comes to that. So as far as jerkbaits go, I've been using the Berkeley cutters. The 110 size, has a lot of gold flash to it, a lot of sound. So if you fish in that deeper water where those fish are transitioning from the deeper section into the shallow section during the day to warm up on rock structure, reeds, any kind of structure that holds heat during the day, and those fish know, that's kind of where I like to target those deeper fish, that transition fish. Because like I said, not all of them go up and push up at the same time. You might have 1 or 2 fish, you might have 10 or 12 fish, you might have 20 fish, you might have 1 fish. It just depends on the day, depends on the area, depends on the zone. It just depends. Sometimes, I like to bring a lot of slow sinking, slow rising stuff, which would be a shad wrap, Rapala. You can do the Megabass 110s, the Megabass Canadas, just a whole bunch of jerkbaits options out there for you guys. But right now, cadence is key. I'm finding a lot of life progression by the day, and it seems like the weather right now is not really bothering them. So these early birds are really hardy, and they can really push up, warm up on rocks, find stuff to eat, and really get those reactive baits in front of their face for those fish that aren't going to eat, but they're there. So you just got to play around with tackle and figure it out. But the flip side is it's largemouth season. The weather's getting nicer, the days are getting longer, and I can't complain, Dave. So I'm going to get back to do some jerk baiting, and I'll check with you guys next week. Peace.
In the famed waters of Panama awaits a fishing experience like no other. Tropic Star Lodge welcomes anglers to get in on world-famous fishing action. Plan your perfect trip today. Tropic Star Lodge, the ultimate in fishing adventures for more than 60 years.
Crossing the border into Connecticut, very similar to what we're seeing in Rhode Island. We have some nuisance ice in the northern part of the state, maybe some safe ice still up in the northwest corner. I got some news sort of secondhand from our Connecticut field editor, Aaron Swanson. He was out on the ice over the weekend, but he was out on the pond all by himself. I don't know what pond he was on, somewhere up in the northwest corner of the state, but he said, there was still 6 inches of hard ice underneath that slushy stuff on top. So take that with a grain of salt. That was already, 5 days ago, something like that. So with all this rain and all this warmer weather, I would be proceeding with extreme caution. The good news is we have open water now in a lot of places across the state, and we're starting to see a lot of catches coming out of these places. I got a nice picture from Dan Southwick this week of a nice largemouth bass that he took on a jerkbait in Connecticut waters. I've heard about a bunch of other guys doing some damage on jerkbaits in Connecticut. Also hearing about a lot of guys taking advantage of trout stocking, which the state's been out there, just hitting it hard, putting trout in everywhere, whether it's in the streams like the Salmon River and the Farmington and the Norwalk River, or if it's up in the ponds. You could go on the Connecticut Deep website or go on their social media, and the list of ponds is just too long to even begin to run down. So they've been out there hitting it hard, like I said, and a lot of guys are taking advantage of that. Talking to the tackle shops, it sounds like that's been a great boon for them, especially with the ice receding. These guys are getting out there, and they're buying their licenses, they're gearing up, they're getting their bait, they're getting their Thomas Buoyants and their jerkbaits and all that stuff, and they're going out there and they're cashing in on this incredible trout bite that's been going on. The other thing that we're going to be looking for is, once the Connecticut River levels start to drop a little bit, because, after all that rain, it's pretty blown out right now, and I guess there was a lot of ice coming down, although I wonder if most of that has just been pushed out by all this runoff. But when things calm down a little bit, you're going to see guys up at Haddam Meadows. They're going to be out there throwing their fluorescent colored jerkbaits and their shiners out there trying to catch those early season pike. That tends to be a pretty decent fishery. And then up in the flooded timber and stuff like that, you're going to see some carp fishing starting up, and all the other species that we see in the Connecticut River, whether it's a holdover striped bass or the tons of pickerel that are in there, or the incredible pan fishing, whether you're fishing for crappie, white perch, or yellow perch. As things calm down, all those fisheries are going to come to life. So that's an area you really want to keep an eye on. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the Housatonic, which has been getting better and better every week. It hasn't been gangbusters yet. We're still kind of waiting on that. That might take some herring moving in to get that up to that level. But we're seeing a lot of fish being caught, and the only thing that's missing right now is those occasional dinosaurs, and they're definitely in there. I guess they're just being a little sluggish lately. Most of what I've heard about has been like 24 to 34 inch fish. And, your best bet is the same best bet that it always is. Go out there with a big soft plastic on a jig head and just work nice and slow. You want that jig head to be just heavy enough to get that thing to the bottom. You want to have a lot of hang time so these fish get a good look at it and can chase it down. So that's what I've been hearing from the Hoosie. And now let's check in with our Connecticut field correspondents.
Hey, Dave, coming to you today from the tying room, getting all loaded up with the early springtime flies right now. Streamer fishing's probably going to be your go-to for the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to see bumps of flow from snow melt, and we had some rain recently, so the rivers are really full. Water temps are really cold. They're still fluttering in that 37, 38 to 42 degrees maybe being the max. That's on the Farmington. So your freestones should be slightly warmer soon, and that transition can happen pretty quickly. Outside of streamer fishing, your junk flies, so squirms, mops, eggs, big stones, stuff like that. Those are all going to be good options. Jigs, not as much. Like, they had their place in the winter. They still can work good in spring. But I find that fish that really want to feed will start, especially the bigger fish, will start moving for like an injured refuge fish coming down. And high flows, coming out, stuff happens. So fish are pretty territorial too in these lies that are optimal lies in high water. So one safety thing is in high water, you do not need to wade. The fish are right on the bank. It's not worth getting in the water. Literally, you're going to spook more fish by getting in the water than if you were just fishing from the bank. So no need to wade right now deep at all. Outside of that, the extended forecast looks, nothing crazy. So we're going to be in that, like 38 degree range, somewhere around there, to maybe getting close to 50, but nothing like we saw with that nice little short heat wave we had. Nothing crazy like that. So typical March weather. Wind, low wind days are going to be probably the most optimal days. High wind, you're going to want to layer up. Otherwise, you're not going to be too comfortable. The Mohegan Sun is hosting a hunting and fishing expo this weekend from Friday to Sunday. I will be there all 3 days hanging out in the local Flyco tent. So if you're heading up to the casino, check that out. Or it's not usually hard to twist my arm to go to the casino. But if you like fishing or good food and maybe a little bit of gambling, good time to head up, check out the fishing, hunting, grab a good meal, and swing by and say hi. Other than that, if you're looking for trips this spring, it's a good time now to contact your guides for drift boat trips in the early spring. On the Farmington, really, March into like the first week of April is probably prime drift boat. After that, not so much. It really depends what's going on, if you get a bump in flow and stuff like that. But part of with the Farmington is it's hard to pin down a specific time when the drift boat trips are going to be really, really good, because if you don't have high water, can be a tough river to float. So back to you, Dave.
Hey everybody, for this week's fishing forecast, I'm getting ready for the spring run. I just got a big order of finesse fish. I'm getting those ready for spring striped bass fishing. This weekend, Friday through Sunday, is a Connecticut fishing show at Mohegan Sun. I'm going to be doing seminars on striped bass fishing. I'll cover electronics, gear, and tactics. My seminar times are Friday at 5 p.m., Saturday at 1 p.m., and Sunday at 11 a.m. All the information is on the website, and I'll post it on my social media pages. So hope to see you this weekend. Also, got my Real Cast Starters hats. These came out really good with the logo on them. If anybody's interested in a hat, they are $20, and just contact me for a hat.
What's up, everyone? Matt here from Black Hoppers in Westbrook with this week's fishing report. We have ice out, which is pretty sweet. My local lake opened right up with all this rain and wind we had recently. Water's still really cold, water level is still high. The creeks near me are going pretty good. But I know that guys are doing well with trout locally. Here in Connecticut, the trout stocking has begun. So definitely take a look on those websites so you can get after those guys if that's what you want to chase. I haven't heard much about freshwater bass and not much about holdovers. I think it's just so early after the ice out. It is very cold. Whatever you're going to do, I would say slow presentation. I'm not sure about the white and yellow perch bite kind of in those Connecticut River areas, but I would imagine, this is the time of year, late March, when that does start to become a viable option, you can use spinners, little jigs, you know, kind of a high-low type of deal on those if you want to, and certainly you can use like night crawlers and stuff like that too. So, you know, right at the very beginning of ice out here, so things are going to still establish. It's not particularly warm coming up, unfortunately. It was like 27 this morning when I got in my car to come into work, but it's going to happen. It always does. It just takes its darn time. So if you do get out there, you know, choose your targets, expect, you know, the water to still be very cold, even though it is open now, and see what you can find.
Hey everybody, we are definitely into the thaw now. Most of the lakes and ponds in Connecticut are ice-free. There's a bit of an exception to that in the northeast and northwest corner. The Connecticut River coves certainly clear. Of course, there was a lot of snow up north, and that last little warm spell we went through really started to melt that, and we've since had some significant rain. So the Connecticut is high and muddy. The main stem of the river itself is unfishable at the moment. The coves are muddy, cold, and high. Probably not easy to get into them in a boat, but if any of the coves that have launches in them, you could probably have some good pan fishing and maybe some decent pre-spawn pike fishing. But given how high the river is at the moment, pre-spawn pike fishing in the main stem of the river, not really an option. Other than that, the carp fishing should be decent. Early season fish will start to get active, especially on the days that get into the 50s. But frankly, any day where there's a bit of sun to warm some of the shallows, fish should move in and feed a little bit. And you should be able to get catfish in some of the backwaters as well if you can get to them. But other than that, definitely looking a little more like spring here, and I'm certainly looking forward to the warmth and improved weather as much as I will miss what was a pretty good ice season.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with your weekly fishing report. The state is still stocking our local waters. The Saugatuck, Mianus, and the Mill River and Fairfield area has been stocked, the TMAs. Remember, it's catch and release right now until the second Saturday in April. We are fully stocked up on all your freshwater needs. Don't forget the Saugatuck Reservoir still follows the second Saturday in April is when you're allowed to fish it. We have the passes and they are cash only. On the saltwater side, anglers are still heading to the Housatonic with the bite that picked up this past week. It should only get better moving to the end of March and into April as everybody's waiting for the arrival of the local herring runs. I've been checking, I haven't seen any yet, and I haven't seen an osprey yet, so hopefully they're not, you know, far behind. Now is the time to get your reels in for service if you have that to be done. We're a little backed up, but if you wait until April, you're going to be, you know, out of luck because you're not going to be able to get your reel back for about a month or so. Moving forward, I would definitely check the local beaches like Capt, Sherwood Island for the first shows of the migrating bass. We haven't heard of anything yet on the beaches yet, but I'm sure it won't be long. Thanks and good luck.
The 2026 show season is here. Sign up for a year subscription to the Fisherman magazine at any of the winter shows and receive a free pair of Danco 7-inch fishing pliers, making this subscription a great deal. These pliers are made from light, strong, corrosion-resistant aircraft aluminum and feature a spring-loaded hinge and replaceable tungsten carbide cutter. Visit the Fisherman booth at one of these shows to subscribe, renew, and claim your free Danco pliers.
And now we're going to take one last look. We're going to take a long flight down to Marina Pez Vela. We're going to check in with Ben down there. We're going to get a report from the Paradise area down in the tropics.
Guys, how's it going? This is Ben Gilmore from down in Costa Rica. I'm here with my buddy here, Eric, from Scotts Plains in New Jersey. Welcome to Costa Rica, Eric. How's your week gone down here so far?
Hey guys, we're having a great time in Costa Rica. We caught 20 sailfish. We caught a 70-inch dorado. We caught a bellfin tuna. Inshore we caught a couple of rooster fish. And we got a triple tail as well and a Cubera snapper. It's awesome down here.
Buddy, you caught them all this week, yeah?
Yep, all this week.
Awesome job, guys. Check out the weather today, guys. Absolutely beautiful. Come down and see us, guys. We've got a bunch of tournaments happening now. The offshore bite's been solid recently. Inshore, like Eric said, has been on fire. And just to add to what Eric caught, I caught some big snook the last couple of weeks, up to 30 pound or so. Guys, come down and see us in Costa Rica. This is Ben Gilmore with Eric at Jackpot Sport Fishing.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there and do some fishing. We got all this open water. There's really no reason not to get excited and get out there and make it happen. You can target whatever you want. You know, you can target trout as long as you're not in Rhode Island. You can target largemouth bass, which have been biting like crazy. You can go catch a giant pickerel, or you can switch over to the backwaters and find some holdover striped bass. All indications point to the bite being very good for all of these species. And, you know, this is the beginning. This is when things kick off. Hopefully you're as excited as I am. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. We cover all the fishing from Delaware to Maine, and we cover all angling disciplines, whether you're a surf guy or an offshore guy, an inshore guy, a kayak guy, strictly freshwater. It doesn't matter. We cover it all. For $35, you're going to get 26 digital editions sent to your email, and you're going to get 12 paper magazines sent to your mailbox once a month. And it's in addition to that, you're going to get digital access to all the back issues, which date back to 2017. You're going to get digital access to our other two editions. So if you sign up for the New England edition, which is the one that I take care of, you will also get digital access to the Long Island Metro edition and the New Jersey Delaware edition. So it's 3 magazines for the price of 1. For $35, the best $35 you're going to spend in fishing. If you find us at a show, you get a free pair of pliers for signing up. But if you look at the website and you're like, you know what? I want to wait a little while. At the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing at the bottom so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.